Hi, and welcome back to ADHD Friendly. I'm Patty. I am a professionally certified ADHD coach, and my passion is finding ways that support my brain to tilt that playing field in favor of it. And I love to bring them here and share them with you at ADHD Friendly in the hopes that they do the same for you. Today, I am sharing episode 150. Oh my gosh, that just feels like such a milestone. Have been doing this weekly podcast and YouTube channel. YouTube channel, if you are listening to this, is available on YouTube at ADHD Friendly. And this is our 150th weekly episode without missing an episode. And that is just, I don't even have it listed as a celebration, which is interesting. But I do want to take a second just to celebrate that, because that's literally, as I am saying it, just blowing my mind that I've been able to do that. Just the amount of executive functions that it takes to organize and plan and prioritize. And it's just been such a great learning experience. And I thank each and every one of my subscribers that if you're new, this is the first time you've stumbled across ADHD Friendly, settle in. I hope you find it a comfortable place to just explore what might work for you to be a little bit more ADHD friendly in your life. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and welcome our new subscribers. We have 6 new subscribers this week. So excited we get to flip to 970. Welcome each and every subscriber. Thank you so much for taking the time to click that subscribe button. Really do genuinely appreciate it. Just really is so fulfilling to be able to reach anyone with some tips and strategies to help you to manage your ADHD with more success and less frustration. So I have another 150th anniversary celebration that I'm going to highlight today for my celebration. And that is the same week that I started this podcast, I started within the same time frame my yoga routine, where I do my morning yoga on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I started with the goal of a minimum of 2 minutes. My goal has changed over the last 3 years, or coming up on my 3-year anniversary, but this is my 150th week of doing Monday through Thursday yoga. Generally, I'm within 15 to 20 minutes each of those days, but I now have a minimum of 5 minutes. So if I do 5 minutes, I get to check the box. So it really works if I'm not feeling well or I'm really low energy. It's really about keeping that routine going and not breaking the chain more than anything else, because that is one of the hardest things for us to do with ADHD, is that consistency. So tomorrow is Thursday. I always record this on Wednesday. Tomorrow is Thursday, and it marks my 150th week of not missing a single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday in 150 weeks. I have chills just saying that out loud. I tried for years to develop a routine around any kind of consistent exercise and really, really struggled. Just was always looking for new sparkly things and new ways to track. I tried domino tracking, where I would stack dominoes, and I wanted to see how long I can make a literal domino chain. I've done everything to try to keep moving forward, and it just was really frustrating for a very long time. And it wasn't until I gave myself permission to make it stupid small. It's one of the strategies that I got from the Stephen Guy's book, Mini Habits, one of my favorites, just absolutely ADHD friendly, even though it's not specifically written for ADHD, but just great strategies for starting what he calls, and I've adopted, stupid small. And that was my 2 minutes a day. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can get the mat out and sit on it for 2 minutes every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and just stretch, just do a couple of things. And my yoga with Adriene is my go-to. And so now I have like a whole list of go-to routines. So if I'm feeling low energy, I know which ones I can still do so that I can keep that momentum going. And I just want to highlight that we can do things consistently if we allow ourselves to do it in a way that we're not feeling resistance. And that's really the key to breaking through. So that's my celebration. All right, on to what I purchased this week as part of my accountability. My partnership with you is to share what I've purchased this week that was a want, not a need. So I'm not sharing my groceries, or when I'm buying dog food, that kind of thing. But when I buy things that aren't necessary, I am tracking that spending. So I bought a new watch case, which I really do consider a need because I totally dropped my watch and cracked the case. So I ordered a new watch case, but technically is still, something I want to protect my watch. And I had needed a new lip gloss. Again, I say need, but I don't have to have lip gloss, but the one that I love and I use every day, and I just like the same color. And so I bought a new lip gloss, and that's it. So I was really excited about my spending this week. That's another celebration right there. Thank you for the accountability partnership that this connection that we've created brings. On I move to the tip for this week, episode 150's tip. If you have anything to add or comment, would love to hear what works for you around this. But my tip is to downsize your bag. And this will really resonate with you if you're what can be referred to as a maximizer, meaning you want to have as much of something as possible. So I grew up watching the original Let's Make a Deal. I know that there's been an updated version with Wayne Brady, which I've caught a few times, but when I was young and I was like homesick from school or something, I would watch Let's Make a Deal. And the end of Let's Make a Deal, when I don't remember what the host's name, but he would walk around and he would have money in his pocket and he would offer somebody like $20 if they have a paper clip, or for every piece of gum you have, I'll give you $10 or something. So that just was so sparkly to me. And I don't know if it's where it came from, but it's where I remember feeling like I wanted to have anything that could ever be asked for by anyone, as though I was going to be on the price or on Let's Make a Deal. I had a purse big enough for what I call my Let's Make a Deal purse, like just in case. I tried to have just about one of everything I could carry in my purse. So paper clips, yeah, absolutely. I would always have them in my purse because that was the one thing that I always thought, oh my gosh, people, he always asks for a paper clip. Have a paper clip. Tape measure. Yes, of course I have a tape measure. You need a tape measure, I'll get it out for you. Eye drops. Sure, of course I have eye drops in my purse. Tissues. Absolutely. I don't leave home without them. So I have been known to carry what I love to, the tote purse, right? So like big enough for like an overnight travel bag, basically. This was my purse in the summer of, I believe, 2022. So about 2 years ago, this is what I was carrying around. And what I have learned about myself over the years, and this is where it becomes a personal owner's manual tool, is I will fill the size of the container. Meaning if it's this size, I will stuff it full. If it's smaller, I will stuff it full. I will fill whatever the size is that I am given. So I need to be mindful of how much do I really want to be carrying around and how much do I really need to carry with me. So over the years, I have challenged myself, and it has been a huge learning experience, but I'm not going to say it wasn't without challenges, because it's hard to let go of the things that I feel like my brain tells me I'm going to need. Like, what if, or just in case. It's kind of how we have clutter in our homes. Like, I can't get rid of that. What if I need it? I always, hold on to clothes like, well, that might make a good Halloween costume. And that became my prompt. Am I saving it just for a Halloween costume? If so, I need to let it go. So last summer, I downsized by buying this purse. So I went from this to this. This was a huge jump for me. It was very uncomfortable, but I have to say the pandemic definitely made it easier because I wasn't going out as much. So it was, kind of, what do I really need to take with me? I'm just going to be running out little short errands. And so I transitioned to this size purse. And then shortly after that, for the winter, and I still use this one because it's kind of neutral and it goes with, just about everything. It was one of Oprah's favorite things. I bought this little guy. So I went over the course of basically a year. I went from this guy to this guy, and I can go smaller than this. My favorite thing is to have my little almost like a lanyard, but it holds my camera, like when I go to a concert or like a flea market or something, and I don't want to have my purse with me. It's just a crossbody strap with the little holder for my camera, and then it has a little zipper for my ID and a credit card, and that's it. And, or, a little bit of cash or something. That's it. I can go down to that, and I just stick a lip gloss. I always have lip gloss with me, so I always stick a lip gloss in my pocket. Done. It has been, I'm just noticing that's glaring, and if you're watching this, I don't want that to be distracting you. It has been a game changer to downsize my bag. And I just invite you to notice, what do you need? If you're carrying more than is really serving you, what would it look like for you to downsize? My other example is in my knit bag. So I've shared before, I love these little mini totes from LL Bean, great for my sock projects. Super sparkly, they're nice and thick so my needles don't stick through them, and the bottom sits flat so I can set it down and it'll stay up. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, it just sits really nicely when I set it down. I'm trying to set it on a rounded arm of a chair here. But the bag I take to my knitting group each week is this guy. And this is like, oh my gosh, I have every single knitting needle I own in here. I have a clipboard with patterns. I have I have like big containers of Notion. It is definitely a just in case bag. I have 3 containers of needles, like really, really, hard not to fill it. One of the reasons I bought it, I have like lights that I can wear around my neck so that I can see knitting if it's, not well lit where I'm sitting. There's everything I could ever need, including, of course, tissues and paper clips. Yes, in here. It is so full that I can only fit one little thing of socks in here. I can't fit a bigger knitting project. If I have a bigger knitting project, I have to bring another bag. So I'm still working on downsizing the knitting bag because it does feel like I don't know if I'm going to need a different needle for something. I've had to buy needles in the moment that I had at home when I was at knit group, because I didn't have them when I was trying to do something in a pattern that I didn't realize I was going to need it for. So I haven't been able to downsize that one yet, but I'm working on it. It's a process. So I just want to share, when downsizing, start where it is feeling a little bit more interesting and sparkly. You have less resistance for it. The purse, because it's an everyday thing, was definitely an area that I felt like I could experiment with a little bit more and get a little bit more data. The knitting bag I'm still working on. My library bag, I have downsized and got that into a medium tote from LL Bean. I really only use my large totes from LL Bean now for traveling. So even that I've tried to get down to the medium tote whenever I can. So it really is a process, but downsizing your bag is just a strategy. If you have downsized a bag that you carry for, whatever you're going out and about with, would love to hear what's worked for you. This is episode 150. Would love to hear anything that you can share on tips for how to downsize your bags. All right, on to now for the topic for this week, working memory. So we're going to talk about working memory and its impact on ADHD and how we can use our awareness of how your working memory is or isn't supporting you to be able to implement some scaffolding around it where you need to, so that it's going to support you more. Working memory is an executive function skill. Executive functions, again, are that area in your prefrontal cortex that is really the orchestra of the brain. It's what everything kind of needs to come together and work together at the right time, at the right levels, the right intensity, the right tempo, if you will, so that you're able to navigate throughout your day and show up the way you intend to and reach your goals. So it's the ability to notice how you're doing in a situation, to manage your time, to prioritize, to plan, to manage your impulsivity, to continue to focus on things, and to be able to hold information in your mind and use it while you are remembering it. That's your working memory. So I'm going to read you a definition of working memory, and that is defined as the process of keeping a bit of information top of mind while accomplishing other tasks. Peg Dawson, who is one of the authors of the Smart But Scattered series, highly recommend these books. They're so great if you have kids, but they also have an adult version as well. And so Peg says, It's not just about being able to remember information, but being able to work with that stuff while you're remembering it. That's the key. It's holding it in mind while you're using it. It's like doing mental math in your head without getting it out of your head and writing it down. It's holding that information in mind while you're working with the information to come up with a solution. So people with ADHD are 4 times more likely to experience problems with their working memory. And challenges with working memory often can get misinterpreted by others as you're not trying hard enough, you're not listening, or you're just lazy. You're not trying here. The average person can hold about 3 to 5 things in their working memory at a time. That number is less for people with ADHD. So it's almost universally impacted with people with ADHD. And so the best way I love to describe this is your working memory is like a Post-it note in your brain, in your mind, that you can hold 3 to 5 things on. So if you write 3 to 5 things on here, if something else comes across your radar, you need to add to it, one of those things is going to fall off to make room for the additional thing. So I think of this as you're holding a grocery list in your mind while you're walking throughout the store, and you've got those 5 things in mind, and somebody texts you and asks you, oh, can you also pick up soda? Something from that original 5 things may fall off to make room for you to hold on to and remember to pick up soda. So that's why it's so key to get things out of your head and into an external visual concrete tool so that you're freeing up your mind from all of the effort it's requiring to hold on to that information. So I'm going to share some examples of what impacted working memory can look like. So these are just some ways that it shows up. People who have impacted working memory, and this is something I share with absolute, I don't want to say pride, but I used to be highly embarrassed because I did not know why I had such a hard time remembering things. I wrote on my hands all the time. I wrote on my arm. I wrote on my shoes when I was in high school. And I would always cover it up. And especially when I was a teacher, I always felt like if I was like meeting with a parent and I realized during the meeting I had writing on my hand, it just felt like it was just so unprofessional. I was always very embarrassed. I now understand that that was a strategy I was using to make sure I would not forget. And I now understand because now I know I have ADHD. I did not know I was diagnosed in my 40s. I know that it's because my working memory is so weak that I need a way to capture things to be able to remember them. So what this can look like is you have a hard time remembering maybe the steps in a process. So I always say if somebody's giving me directions, oh my gosh, like if you're like, okay, you're going to go out the driveway and turn right at the end of the street, you're going to go left. And then when you get to the second traffic, I'm like, you lost me there. Wait, I go out of the driveway and I'm turning right. I have to like kind of like almost like role play it out. And then best case scenario is I'm writing it down, because as soon as I get so overwhelmed with the expectation that you have for me to remember it, it's out of my mind, it's gone. You may also lose time looking for things because you can't remember where you put them. You might forget commitments. You might have more schedule mix-ups. You might arrive late or unprepared to meetings or appointments. You will probably have worse organizational skills. You'll have difficulty planning, difficulty completing tasks. You might start something and then get distracted and forget what step you were in the process and not come back and complete it. In terms of school, so if you have kiddos or if you're in college and have impacted working memory, if you are writing, it can look like you'll have a harder time this is for younger kids, forming letters into words and putting them in the correct order. Remember, that's all your working memory. You have to think and form that when you're writing and trying to like write out a sentence and you're trying to remember how to spell something. And while holding on to what would the end of the sentence that you were writing, it's a lot of working memory going on there. It could also be that your sentences may not begin with capitalization or end with a punctuation mark. Again, that's holding on to that detail while you're trying to remember what you're trying to write down. So things like that can get lost. In math, it can be challenging to go back and forth between concepts, which can cause mistakes. So you might forget a piece of a process and you'll end up with, you might basically understand it, but forget a part of it, and you'll end up with the wrong answer, making what somebody else might look at as a careless mistake. For you, it's actually a working memory mistake. Okay, so there is a TED Talk that's a few years old now. It was done by Peter Doolittle. It's on working memory. Highly recommend it. It's TED Talks are great because they're just, short, bullet pointed little talks. He shares some great information. I highly recommend you check it out, but I'm going to share a little bit of what he shared in his talk. He said, working memory is the ability to take what we know and what we can hold on to, and it allows us to leverage it to satisfy our current goal. People with strong working memory tend to be, and this is him, he said, they're good storytellers. That makes so much sense. I always get lost in stories. I'm like, wait, where was I going with this? I also can't tell a joke unless it's like a 2-line joke. And I never knew why. It's just a joke in my own family. If I'm going to tell a joke, I'm always like, no, wait a minute. I don't remember where they were, or wait, how did it, or I'll tell half of it and I don't remember how it ended. I can't hold on to all of those pieces. They have high levels of writing abilities. Again, that makes sense. What I just shared a minute ago about the challenges, they can hold on to all of those pieces while they're writing. So they hold on to the thread, they're getting the punctuation down, they're remembering how to spell and do everything as they're writing. They also are able to reason at high levels. Okay, so I'm going to do a little experiment, and I am going to preface this with only do this if you are in a safe environment to do this. So not if you're driving, do not do it if you're driving, not if you're riding a bike or if you're walking near traffic or anything like that, anywhere where you're going to be distracted. Only do this if you are in a safe place where you're just sitting like I am, safely at home or in a parked car, somewhere that you are able to focus on this without pulling your attention from something that could harm you. So the experiment is this, and you can replay this later if you're not in an environment where you can do this safely. I'm going to say 5 words. I'm going to ask you not to write them down because this is a working memory little experiment. Hang on to those 5 words while I ask you 3 other questions. That's going to test the working part of your memory. And we'll see what happens with those words after I ask you those 3 questions. Okay. So the 5 words are tree, highway, mirror, Saturn, electrode. Okay, hold on to those words. And now I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Question number 1, multiply in your head 23 times 8. I'll give you a second. Okay, question number 2, hold up your left hand and count to 10 on your fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Question number 3, recite the last 5 letters of the alphabet backwards. Okay, that's it. Now think back to those 5 words. How many of them can you remember? All right, I'm going to tell you them again. They are tree, highway, mirror, Saturn, electrode. Less than 50% of people can hang on to all 5 words. So if you held on to all 5 words, air high five, fabulous. What I would ask you if you held on to all 5 words is how much effort did it take for you to hold on to those all 5 of those words? I remember when I did this, I was watching his TED Talk and I really, really worked at holding on to them. And it took every bit of my mental effort to try to hold on to them. The average for working memory capacity is to hold on to 4 things for about 10 to 20 seconds. So that's average. Unless we are able to process it and apply it. And that can be as simple as just telling somebody about it. So Peter went on, he shared that working memory allows us to listen to a conversation, know where the conversation has been, and then where it is right now and where it's going in order to form opinions and identify where we might contribute in a conversation. If you have any difficulty with jumping in, cutting people off because you want to share something because you're afraid you might forget it, that can be a working memory issue. Peter says we need to support our working memory. We need to process our thoughts, what we hear in the moment, by repeating it and practicing it. We are built for imagery. So he says, use it, structure what you're doing in a way that makes sense for you. He said, if we aren't processing life, we aren't living it, live life. I love that. I always talk about our working memory kind of being like vapor. If it's something that my current self or now, not now brain says, oh, I can remember this, no problem. It's so clear. There's no way I'm going to forget. I know I'm going to forget. My future brain does not show up in a way that's able to support me to remember. So I have to write it down. So here are some strategies to support if you are like, yeah, okay, apparently my working memory is not where I want it to be. Maybe you've already known that, or maybe you're just discovering now what that could look like for you. Here are some strategies to help support it a little bit more easily if you have ADHD and impacted working memory. The first is decide once by creating homes. So that can literally be like deciding like, this is where my coat always goes. This is the hook where my keys are always going to hang, or the little bowl by the table by the front door where my wallet and keys go when I get home. Have one place that you've decided is the home, and that's where they go. If that's the home that you've decided and you use it, it's literally going to ease your working memory because you don't have to remember where you put things, or you're not putting them down and forgetting where you put them. Have a central charging station, one place where you charge your devices, then that's where your device will live. Have a file box to sort papers and mail. Have it in one place so that when it comes in, you have a system for keeping up with it. Everything will be in that spot because you decided once that that's the home. Have a basket for shoes near the door or for laundry in your room. Have a place where they go that you've decided one time that's the home for it, and you don't have to continue using your working memory to make more decisions in the moment. Another strategy is just to have checklists. So if you're trying to remember those 5 grocery items, take out your phone, open up the Notes app, and just write the 5 things down. You might still remember them, but knowing they're there just relaxes your brain and allows you to hold on to it more easily, or it actually reinforces it because you wrote it down. So now you are able to remember it more easily. And if you do forget, you can go back and look and just confirm. I like to do it as a challenge for myself where I'll try to remember everything. And then I'll look at the list and just confirm, did I do it? Like, did I succeed? Good on me. And if I didn't, I'm always like, wow, that's so interesting. It completely did not come back to my brain. And it's just validating to know I wrote it down and now I can still remember to get it instead of being frustrated when I get home. Have a packing list. If you travel often, keep it in your suitcase so you know the things you typically take. I like to have seasonal ones depending on where I'm going, so that it's just easier if I'm traveling in the winter as opposed to in the summer. Have a take to list. Like these are the things I take to school or to work or to the gym or to my kids' sport practice, whatever it is. Have a bring home list. So if you're at work, what are the things you always want to make sure are coming back with you? Have a grocery list, like a standard staples list of things that you typically are buying. Knock Knock Lists has a great grocery shopping list that I used for a long time. It comes with a magnet on the back, so it will stick on the fridge. It has like 50 tear sheets. Great tool. I used it for a long time. And now I just have one that's customized for me and what I typically shop for. Use digital reminders as another tip. So like online calendars that will prompt you at certain times, or location reminders so that it will prompt you when you return home or when you get to work, different locations that are going to be specifically targeting your memory. Use your devices like Siri and Alexa so that you're setting up to give you a reminder at a certain time. And then what I love to use if, let's say I do put my keys down someplace and I forget where they are, air tags or, like tiles, when all else fails, having them I put them in my car so I don't lose it in the parking lot. I put them in my bags so I know where my bag is, on my keychain so I know where my keys are. They have little flat ones that you can stick inside your wallet if you tend to misplace that. Have them where you need them, so that I've had clients that will just like tape them onto a notebook that they bring with them everywhere so that they know where the notebook is. So really just having that kind of insurance, if you will, that if your system falls off, you have that backup plan to be able to locate something. If you're out of your routine and your home isn't available, if it gets put somewhere and then you forget where it is, an AirTag can be a great thing to help find it. Okay. Another strategy is just, again, to use low-tech solutions. So Dr. Russell Barkley says to begin by simply writing things down with pen and paper. He says, yes, your phone is often nearby, but using technology for all such memory tasks is misguided for ADHD in many ways. He says that smartphones and tablets and smartwatches, they can get lost, they can be drained of battery, they might not sync, they can add more stress because of these things. He said, instead, just go low tech and write it down. Yeah, amen, Dr. Barkley. I completely agree. If you are going to use tech, one of the ways that you might find can support your working memory is to take pictures. I love to take pictures of my list so that if I leave the list at home, I still have a picture of it that I can pull up on my phone. It makes it much easier. I have clients that will take a picture of their weekly plan or their daily plan and use it as their home lock screen so that whenever they pick up their phone, it reminds them of what they were trying to get done that day. Great strategy. I like to take digital pictures for before and after projects. So I remember, number one, that even if it got to this state, I can get it back. Like I have those pictures, but it's also great as evidence of progress so that it's like, okay, it might be like I always use the organizing the garage example. I'm not going to get that all done in an hour, but it can help to see progress. Like I did this one section where all of the, outside games equipment is or something like that. Okay. Visual aids. This, you guys know, if you listen to the podcast with any regularity, I am all about visual aids. So my favorite here I'm going to share is sticky notes, how to use Post-its. And I'm going to share this with my podcast planner. And this is one of my favorite tools. I call it a semester calendar. It's just a blank 4-month calendar, dry erase. You can wipe it off and update it as needed. I tend to update it every 2 months. So I just move the bottom to the top and add the next 2 months. So this one right here was for August through November. And because my podcast comes out on Wednesdays, I just write them down with Post-it notes. And what I love about it is it gives me a chance to notice how does it feel for the different things I've planned. So I have through the middle of October planned weekly. And then I have the next special 10 after that, episode 160, I think it is, over there planned. Yeah, in November. And so I can see what I have planned, where I still need to find some topics, but I can also move them around easily because they're on Post-it. So if I decide to switch 2 weeks, it's super easy just by moving the Post-its. So this is an external, concrete, visual way that's very flexible, that lets me move around my thoughts. I use this for my ADHD-friendly membership community programming as well, where I can see like, oh, is there a holiday coming up that I want to be aware of? Is there, like October is ADHD awareness month. So I might want to be aware of, what am I offering that month specifically targeted around that? I have probably 3 of these that I use. Actually, I do have 3 with the same Post-it kind of structure, just to be able to see what I'm planning in a very concrete way. So I just want to share that as a fabulous, in my mind, in my experience, working memory tool to help me not just see it. I have this in a spreadsheet as well. This spreadsheet helps me just capture the topics, but this helps me use my working memory to manipulate and work with them, to literally move them around and notice how they feel. And if I want to change anything based on actual dates, I can see them, I can see what's coming up, and it just helps me to plan with more ease. So there's working memory in a nutshell and some tips to help you to use yours with tools so that it's not getting in your way. It's actually supporting you to thrive with ADHD. Go working memory. All right, now for the book of the week. This week, I am highlighting All the Colors of the Dark. This is by Chris Whitaker. He is the New York Times bestselling author of We Begin at the End, which I also read and absolutely loved. I did not love this one as much. It may be partly because I picked it up and had to put it down. It was a brand new book for my library. I had to return before I finished it. So I ended up buying the book. And it was probably a month before I picked it back up and finished it. It was very interesting because I had other books that were due that I had to read before I can go back to it. But I did really enjoy it. It was definitely interesting, well-written, very interesting, kind of engaging story. But it definitely had some darkness to it about child abduction and the implication throughout life after, if you're a survivor of that. But I really did enjoy it. So I highly recommend it. All the Colors of the Dark. All right. And then a quote for this week. This is a quote from Emily Dickinson, the poet, on the value of small actions. So Emily Dickinson says, "If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life of the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin into his nest again, I shall not live in vain." That's from her poem, If I Can Stop One Heart from Breaking. I love that. It resonated with me because it's literally how I think of my podcast. For people that find out that I'm doing a podcast, especially when I'm on episode 150 and I don't even have 1,000 followers. I have had people advise me or, kind of in kind ways, is this really serving you? And I have to say it is, because I do get feedback from people who are able to use some of the things that I share in ways to support them. And that's what it's all about. And you guys give me so much structure around my thoughts, because every week I'm looking for what's the most important thing to share this week, that it's invaluable to me. It's become such a powerful tool to support me and my goals. A big piece of me tying the yoga with starting the podcast routine was tied to both of those things starting around the same time. And I'm just so grateful. So to every one of you 970 people who have taken the time to subscribe, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if I'm able to help anybody with anything that I share, I'm just incredibly grateful. So that's it for this week. Happy 150, and I'll see you next time. Tally ho.